Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. And in today's video, I want to talk to you a little bit about kinesiology and specifically at the ankle. Now, this is coming from a student that had actually asked me a question, and she was basically trying to differentiate the difference between the terms inversion, eversion, and internal and external rotation. By the way, this is a very, very common, confusing part of any type of personal training certification course. And of course, you need to know some kinesiology. You don't need to know a ton of kinesiology. And what is kinesiology? It's just a study of human movement. And whenever we talk about human movement, we have to have some basic terms that help us to communicate with each other. And that's why we have terms like flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, right? And these will occur within the different, what are known as planes of motion. So I want to try and say real specific to the question that was asked. And she was basically asking, well, I don't really get the difference between inversion, eversion, and internal, external rotation. Now, that is a great point, and it's a really good question to bring up, because if she's asking that question, I know there's 20 other people that are asking or thinking about the same question. Remember, in kinesiology, human movement, this is three-dimensional stuff, and that's why I'm going to use a sneaker to kind of help you to understand this. Now, even though the student was talking about inversion, eversion versus internal and external rotation, technically, when we're talking about movement at the ankle, we don't use the terms internal, external rotation. The general understanding is that there's basically 6 type of movements at the ankle. There's actually more, because it's really pretty complicated. You'd be surprised if you take a look, just Google the ankle itself. And if you look at just the skeletal structure, you got a lot of stuff happening in there, which is why, for, lack of a better term, it's a hot mess at the ankle when you don't take care of it. You don't strengthen the muscles, you walk incorrectly, you got the wrong shoes. Okay. So technically there's six movement patterns. It's not a bad idea to at least know them. Dorsiflexion, which is when the toe moves up, right? So the ankle, the angle between the ankle and the foot. And you don't need to know the names of these joints, the subtalar joint, the talocrural joint. You don't need to know those technically those names. But when we talk about ankle movement, right, when you see the foot moving like this and moving and turning all this way, generally we're talking about that joint that's between the tibia and the fibula, right, the 2 bones of the lower leg that sit onto the first of the multiple bones that are going to form what we call the ankle joint. That is known as so those 2 bones sit on a joint known as the talocrural, right? Talocrural. Do not memorize that. I'm just telling you so you understand there's a lot more to this. Underneath the bone there, you have what's known as the subtalar joint, and that's where the movement of inversion and eversion occur. But technically, dorsiflexion, right? But I was just saying, dorsiflexion occurs at that at the talocrural joint, and that's when movement at the ankle, right? Movement, toe moving up, toes to nose, as we say. Plantar flexion, which is the opposite of dorsiflexion. So dorsiflexion is when you pull your toe up, and plantar flexion when you point your toe down. Normally, I would say like throw a seed on the ground and you would plant it in the ground, right? You would turn your toe on it, right? So plant a seed, whatever works for you, right? That's how you memorize these things. So dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. Then we have what's known as inversion and eversion. That's the question at hand that the student was trying to she was referring to. And then there's what's known as pronation and supination, which we are definitely not going to get into, because even those guys, the term pronation and supination actually involve 3 different movements to get the movement of pronation and supination at the ankle. I don't want to go into that in this particular video. I think I might have actually done a video on that. But the point is inversion and eversion, and what is the difference? So let's first explain what inversion and eversion is. Pretty pretty standard, pretty simple. The way I always think about it is I think about the sole of the foot, right? The bottom of the foot. Here is your arch on the inside. This is my left sneaker. And yes, this is my daughter's sneaker, so don't tell her. So there is the arch and the sole of the feet. The easiest way to remember inversion is simply to think about moving the sole inward or the arch inward and upward. So basically the sole of the foot moves in toward the midline of the body. So that's like putting your weight on the outside of your feet. Okay, quite common when people turn their ankle. Have you ever turned your ankle? You know, you walk some way or you heard someone turn their ankle. That's generally what they're doing. They are going into sort of a acute hyper inversion of the ankle, whack. And that's what does some serious damage to the ligaments, those ligaments in the ankle. So nevertheless, that's inversion. Sole of the foot moves inward. So basically you're out on the outside of the foot, pinky toe here, big toe here, and you basically do this on the outside of the foot. Eversion is just the opposite. It's basically just a movement where you kind of put the weight of your weight of your body inward onto the big toe, sort of. It's almost like, think about collapsing the arch, but it's just putting the weight on the inside of the foot, which means that the sole of the foot faces outward. Now, I will tell you this, there's a whole lot more movement capability through inversion than eversion. Eversion is really, there's not a whole lot of movement capabilities, and that's just due to the biomechanics of the joint and the amount of ligamentous material that's holding the ankle, the subtalar joint, the talocrural joint in place. And so that ensures that there's not a whole lot of extraneous movement. The ankle, come on, the ankle needs to be really well encapsulated and held together. So that's inversion and eversion, right? And I just showed you dorsiflexion, toe up, toe to nose, toes to nose, plantar flexion, planting a seed, boom, foot goes down, right? And that's occurring in the sagittal plane, right? Plantar flexion, dorsiflexion in the sagittal plane, right? Here's the thing, inversion, eversion is frontal plane. So kind of in answer to the question, external, internal, external rotation occurs in the transverse plane. Technically, when you talk about pronation and supination at the ankle, you could, at least for demonstration purposes, say that it's more of a rotational external. And technically, when you combine all of the movements in pronation and supination, I guess technically the actual movement pattern occurs in the transverse plane. But again, I'm leaving that off over here to maybe talk about at a later time. So inversion, eversion occurs in the frontal plane, right? Because technically, if you think about it, if I look at just the ankle itself, and by the way, inversion, eversion occurs in what's known as the subtalar joint. Okay, just Google a picture of the ankle. It'll make a whole lot of sense. Trust me. You got the fibula-tibular complex, okay, bone, joint, bone, calcaneus. You got all of these bones in the foot, and it makes it fairly complicated. You don't need to memorize those terms. That's why I'm always kind of hesitant about giving you the terminology. You don't need to know and memorize it. What you do need to know is that inversion is this way, eversion like this, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. I hope that is helpful. If it is, just type in that you understood it. Just write the word understand in the comment section below. One of the most important things that we can do for you here at Body Design University is help you to become a certified and qualified personal trainer. The fitness industry needs folks like you that actually understand, know kinesiology, biomechanics, and all of the other elements that we teach at Body Design University. Keep in mind, if you have not done so, please subscribe to our channel. Head on over to the Facebook group and join us there. Got lots of folks, big community of folks that are becoming certified personal trainers. As always, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.